over to Marine to work on some weight plates for some semi trucks. Here we go. Today we're over at Marine Engineering. We're going to be assisting with building a weight plate for a semi truck. I'm going to get started out here by getting this 1-inch plate cleaned up, laid out, and we're going to be cutting out 3 different plates. One that will have an 8-inch cutout for a kingpin insert. The second plate is going to have some angled cuts for the rear facing end of what will eventually become a weight plate for this truck. And we'll have a rear fascia plate that'll have some relief cuts for an air hitch and some D-ring mounts that are already on a plate on the rear of the truck. I'm going to get the plate laid out and marked to cut the final dimension of the kingpin base plate. And then I'm going to move next to cutting out the second plate, which will be the top plate for our weight plate. And I'm going to follow up that with cutting some beveled edges on the end of this weight plate. We'll eventually end up putting some cap plates on the end just to kind of enclose the weight plate structure, as we're putting a 1.5 inch riser plate in between just to kind of help sturdy up this weight plate. All right. So what we got going on here, this is gonna be a weight plate. We're gonna put some ecology blocks, concrete blocks, just add some traction. This plate here is gonna sandwich up against the back of this guy. We already have a relief hole, which is that guy right there for our lights. Then we got a clearance for the D-rings, and then make this a wider cutout in the center here to mount a new hitch. I'm gonna finish up with cutting out the third and final plate, which is the rear fascia plate. As you can see, I'll be cutting out some relief cuts. There'll be a center relief cut for the air hitch, and then I also cut out some reliefs for the D-rings that are, as mentioned before, are already on a plate that's welded to the back of the truck frame. And we'll get that cleaned up, and here shortly you'll see everything mounted and set on the truck. So now you can kind of see what we're got going on here. This is the rear plate for the main weight plate. We're going to this plate will bolt on in a couple of locations throughout here. We'll weld this seam, probably also do it on the back, and then we're going to put a plate that covers this all the way across. And then as you can see, Tulio machined or uses mill, and we milled out this, or he milled it out, because the hole pattern is not quite center to center on all these. They're not the same. So in order to have a matching hole pattern so we can adjust the hitch up and down if needed, well, it'll end up being like this, but we want to be able to adjust it up and down in here to be able to go from this position or mount it way up here. I may have to trim this out some more. And then we'll end up putting this chunk that I cut out from the center here. We'll end up going on the back side of this plate. Probably weld it on the back side of this plate, and then we'll punch holes through it as well to be able to mount it in different mounting points. And the idea is, whenever they don't need this weight plate, they can unbolt all this stuff, or basically just unbolt all these bolts for this back plate, and then release the kingpin latch, and this whole thing will lift and slide off of here, and then they can set it on the ground somewhere until they need it the next time, but you don't have to unbolt this guy every time, or all this stuff is relief cut, so it just slides over the top. Simple and easy. Kind of neat. As you can see, there's a kingpin. Got it all sandwiched. That's that. Okay, under the truck here, as you can see, this slot is for an air can rod that's going to come through. There'll be an air can back here so they can airlock and unlock the hitch. This is a doubler plate that we put on the back here just to add some more strength for towing. I'm going to put a couple good tacks. A lot of room down here, but anyways, I'm gonna try and get some of this welded out, and then Tulio can get the rest. Crap down here. Krampus Titus. Okay. Enough forking around. Let's get to work. So I don't know if you could see what I was doing. On the corners I did down passes. Normally I wouldn't do that. I'm running 045 hardwire instead of normally I run dual shield 1/16 or 152 or what, or not 152, 0.52, 052, whatever the fuck. Dual shield. I have hardwire in here because we were filling the old bolt pattern, and I wanted to use hardwire because we had to drill through that, and I didn't want a bunch of slag in the holes. So I'm just getting this tacked in here decent, and Tulio is going to take over and probably stick it because I gotta get going, and I won't have time to get back to this job for a couple weeks. So that's the game plan for now. Show you. Oh, there's not much for room. Now we got a big fatty pass in there, so that will glue it in good for now. Yeah. Alright, I'm getting out of this hobbit hole. I'm gonna turn you guys off. Bye. See you later.